William Collins presents Patrick O'Brian, A Very Private Life, by Nikolai Tolstoy, read by Gordon Griffin.
Indeed, I cannot conceive a more perfect mode of writing any man's life than not only relating all the most important events of it in their order, but interweaving what he privately wrote, and said, and thought, by which mankind are enabled, as it were, to see him live, and to live o'er each scene with him, as he actually advanced through the several stages of his life. James Boswell, The Life of Samuel Johnson, LL.D., London, 1793. 1. Page 6. Preface. A fortnight after Patrick O'Brian's death, the playwright David Mamet wrote of his literary achievement, "Recently I put down O'Brian's sea novel, The Ionian Mission, and said to my wife, 'This fellow has created characters and stories that are part of my life.' She said, 'Write him a letter. He's in his 80s. Write him and thank him. And when you're in England, look him up. Go tell him.' How wonderful," she said, "to be alive when he is still alive. Imagine living in the 1890s and being able to converse with Conan Doyle." Mamet promptly rehearsed the eulogium with which he would address his literary hero, and began preparing a letter of introduction at his breakfast table. Then, glancing at the newspaper beside him, he saw to his dismay an announcement of the melancholy news of Patrick's death. I have no doubt that Patrick would have been delighted by such praise from his acclaimed fellow writer, and that had my mother still been alive, she would have inserted the letter in her box file, "Valuable fans and very good reviews." My hope is that, while nothing can quite replace a face-to-face conversation, this book may compensate by enabling Mamet, and others of Patrick's worldwide legion of admirers, to learn much more of his life and personality than might have been obtained from any interview with the famously reclusive writer. This book covers the latter part of Patrick O'Brian's life, from the moment of his and my mother's arrival at Collioure, in the south of France, in the autumn of 1949. It is the period during which he wrote all his major works. Since my mother's death 20 years ago, I remained the sole intimate observer of Patrick's astonishing career, from impoverished and little-known writer in 1955, when I first met him, until his death at the height of his international fame at the turn of the millennium, 45 years later. Nevertheless, it never occurred to me at any point during his lifetime to compile his biography, not least because I was well aware of his detestation of inquisitive inquiries into his private life. My unanticipated decision to undertake the task began in the aftermath of Patrick's death at the beginning of the year 2000. I was witness to the acute distress caused him by the imminent appearance of an unauthorized biography. My dismay was briefly allayed by its publication soon afterwards, when I was asked to review it. My initial impression was that the book appeared largely harmless. Knowing little at the time about Patrick's early life and his relationship with his first wife Elizabeth and son, Richard, I felt I had no reason not to accept the author's account of Patrick's life before I knew him as broadly accurate, and besides dismissed it as of little relevance to his reputation as a writer. What I was not prepared for, however, was the startling extent to which a small but vociferous coterie of journalists and reviewers eagerly swallowed everything related in the book that could be interpreted as detrimental to Patrick's reputation, regardless of its truth, or in many instances, even likelihood. Regrettably, it was in some of the more meretricious cases that his detractors arranged for their pieces to be posted on the internet for futurity. Before long it occurred to me that I was uniquely placed to provide a more balanced and credible picture. Not only had I known Patrick intimately throughout the greater part of his life, but in addition I possessed almost all his personal papers, extending from his appearance in a pram at the age of 1 to his final melancholy sojourn in Dublin. This includes such invaluable sources as my mother's and his own diaries, covering every day of the greater part of the period 1945 to 1999, my mother's financial accounts from 1945 to 1997, Patrick's correspondence with his literary
Sample complete. Ready to continue?